Welcome to the Elevated Trader Podcast. I am Dr. Kristin Kidgel.
And I am Tracy Ball. Join us every week as we journey into becoming better traders.
We believe becoming better traders involves elevating our skill, our mindset, and our health. In each episode, we will discuss the current book we are exploring, and we invite you to join us on this journey.
Are you ready to elevate your trading, mindset, and health to the next level? Let's do this.
Welcome to part one of the book Money Grows on Trees by Jerremy Alexander Newsome, one of my favorite people on the planet. So lucky to have spent time with this guy. But, Tracy, why are we reading this book first out of our, I don't know, what do you think? We probably have 30 books.
Oh, I think we've got a bigger list than that. I think it's up to 100 now. But yeah. No, that's a great question. We had a choice of lots of books. I mean, originally we had a list of 20 and we nailed it down to this book first. And I think that it's really fitting. You and I know each other. We've come together because of this man, because of Jerremy Alexander Newsome. And we thought that this would be a great tribute to that connection right off the bat. We both think the world of him. We both think he's amazing. He's awesome. He's incredible. And that is why we are starting with Money Grows on Trees. Now, it is a money book. It is a financial book, but I think most importantly, it is a mindset book. So,
totally agree.
Yeah. So let's start this off. I'm just curious. In the introduction, I mean, there was a whole bunch of stuff. What was your biggest takeaway of the introduction? What stood out to you?
So, I actually think I texted you, or I don't know, we were talking and I'm like, did you see that he had a 2010 car when he was saying how broke he was? She goes, I'm like, I had to do the math. It was a new car. So I had that like, okay, I'm getting this. This dude's broke because I'll go through that list in a second of how broke he was. He has different statements, but yeah, that one was a little shocker for me.
We should point out that if you haven't read the book yet, this is a spoiler alert. So let's just throw that out there first. Okay. So spoiler alert.
A little bit. Most of these kind of will be spoiler alerts a little.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also 100% want to make sure everybody realizes that it's a good, very, very good audiobook. It is a much better read. And I don't think I can say that about any books yet, but we'll see.
Well, you know what? You actually just brought something up that I want to actually touch on. We haven't touched on it yet, and I want to do that now. I have read this book twice now. Okay, this is my second time reading it. I didn't even get a quarter of what I got out of it now the first time I read.
Why?
Because the first time I read it, I just read it. Now, I'll tell you, by doing what we're doing has already improved my reading ability or my takeaways from these books 100-fold. And the reason being is every time I sit down and pick up a book, I'm reading with intention.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, it's huge. It's huge. So again, we'll get back to the takeaway. All right.
Yeah.
2010 car, brand new car.
It's got a new car. But this is how broke he said he was. And I'm not going to read them all because it's a page and a half. Yeah, page and a half. He said, let's see here. I'm talking about, I knew the exact days and hours each grocery store had free samples broke. I was using the bathroom in public places, drinking only from water fountains, broke. Never applying sunscreen because it required money to purchase the sunscreen, broke. Wearing the same clothes for multiple days, broke. I was doing a single swipe under each arm to make the deodorant last longer, broke. Using Bing instead of Google, broke. So he goes on and on. Keeping my ex-girlfriend's Netflix sign-in and using her account, broke. So, yeah. And then as I get closer and closer to my 2010 silver Toyota Corolla, is it where he has a moment that changes his directory forever. So go ahead. Tell me what you got.
what I got from that. Because yeah, it did stand out to me. And I'll tell you, the biggest takeaway that I took from that was like, wow, okay, mind blowing that broke is a state of mind. It is not a fact. It is not an actual position. It is a state of mind, because I'm reading this thing going, wow. And I believe 100% that Jerremy thought that he was broke. He felt broke. He believed that he was broke. But I'm looking at going, dude, you still had a car. You still had a brand new car. You still had a place to live. You still had, my definition of broke is very different than his definition of broke. And it's all different for each and every one of us. It's a threshold. And actually, I was listening to a podcast a while ago. I think it was the Mindset Mentor that I was listening to, which is excellent, by the way. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how, and I'm hoping it was his podcast, but anyway, he was talking about how we all have kind of a thermometer with money. And, you know, when your thermometer gets to a certain threshold, all of a sudden things start to kick in and you start to behave a certain way, right? You start to get into that feeling of like you don't have enough. And so basically each of us has a different setting on that thermometer. And I'll give you an example. So for instance, if you had, say, a thermometer set at $1,000 in your bank account, then when that threshold gets met, as long as you stay above $1,000, you feel like you can spend money, you can do whatever you want. But the minute it drops below that, all of a sudden you feel uncomfortable, you feel broke, you feel this, you feel that. And the concept of broke, I think, is the same way. We have a thermometer and it's set at a different level for each individual. And this to me was, it was mind blowing that this is exactly what we're talking about as far as concept. I quit smoking in 1994. And I quit smoking August 4th, 1994, because I didn't have the $4.50 to buy the next pack of smokes.
Interesting.
Okay. Now, I could have continued the habit by picking butts off the floor, off the ground, and, you know, taking out the stuff and putting it all together and creating another cigarette. I could have done that. And that would have been, you know, another level for me to go to, but I didn't. Now, I didn't even think of myself as broke then, right? So even though I couldn't buy a pack of smokes, I probably could have figured out some way of getting there somehow to continue that habit. But that was the level, the threshold that said, no, enough's enough. I cannot spend money on that. Right.
So let me see if I get this straight. I totally agree with you that broke is 100% a mindset. I like the analogy of the thermometer because I think a lot of us can relate to that. I mean, being self-employed, I have absolutely felt that, where you're like, there's a certain amount of money I want to stay constantly in there. And if it drops below that, and the only person that made that up was me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that's not even the personal account, right? Or the savings and all these, you know, we have all these different accounts, trading accounts, everything. So that's really cool. And what I appreciate about Jerremy is he's like, I want different. You know, so I don't want to discount the fact that, you know, your analogy with the $4, was it exactly $4, by the way? And that's Canadian money. So
yeah, $4.50. Yeah.
So I don't know what that translates into an American.
Oh, probably about $8. No, just kidding. I don't know what it is in US dollars, but it wasn't much. That's the point.
Well, it was enough that it changed the trajectory of your life.
Oh, it did. Absolutely. It forced me into decision. Right? Yeah.
How'd that go? What was it like?
Great.
It felt good.
Smoking.
Like, was it an easy decision?
I quit smoking. I had to quit drinking as well. It's not like I had a problem with drinking. Anytime I had a beer in my hand, I wanted to have a cigarette with me. So in order to quit, I needed to also not drink. So it was a long 6 months of never going to the bar and hanging out with friends or doing any of that. I had to steer clear away from that so that I could just not buy that pack of smokes.
Do you mind me asking how old you were when you were doing all that?
19, I think. 19, 20.
Oh, young. Growing up fast. Yeah. Those are adult decisions right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for you. I never knew that about you.
Yeah. And I didn't have a car. I had a bike. I had a pedal bike, and I biked everywhere. So I would get a lot of biking done in a day just to get from point A to point B.
Back then.
No e-bikes back then. No. And I had 2 roommates at the time. So yeah, no, I had an air mattress for a bed, and it was on the floor. Okay. And like I said, I lived with two other people, and I biked everywhere or took transit, one of the two, whichever was convenient. But that was my mode of transportation. Yeah, that last few dollars I didn't have and it was a matter of priority. Why did I not think I was broke? Because I couldn't afford to buy the last pack of smokes. It was because I had other priorities, which are bills. So I had this responsibility and this hierarchy of what was important to pay first. And the cigarettes were at that bottom of that threshold, and I had $0 left to spend on stuff like that. So that it forced me into decision. And that's why I'm saying that even though I didn't have enough money to do something like that, I couldn't afford to pay for the $4.50 of smokes. I still didn't consider myself broke because I still had a place to live. I still had a way of earning money. I still had, it didn't dawn on me. I just figured, okay, well, I just haven't made it yet. I'm young, and I'm still trying to make my way in the world. And this is just the way it is. I mean, I went to university with people that, we knew exactly what days you could get the four for a dollar craft dinner or the 4 for a dollar Mr. Noodles. And we'd be eating out of the car, putting boiled water in there. You'd get it from, one of the staff lounges or something like that, where you could do it and you'd steam it and you try and cook it, or cooking it on top of the engine compartment in your vehicle. You're trying to be as resourceful as you possibly can to cut your costs down so that you continue to get into your education to elevate yourself into a better career. I mean, you went to university. I'm sure that you could understand that, but.
Yeah. No, I mean, the only times we ever used our car to cook anything, it was for a joke. We would take cookie dough because it was really, really hot. We were proving how hot it was. But no, that's serious. Is that called brokage? I think I just invented that.
Maybe.
So
maybe.
Still in the introduction, he talks about what that point was. And so the help, if I get it wrong, let me know. But he had a penny in the account.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he was going to overdraft at the grocery store. He's walking back to his car with the groceries that he knew he overdraft. His groceries cost 3 times as much, pretty much, because he was overdraft. He's going to have to pay that fee. But he's walking out, and then this woman asks him for money. And he's like, lady, did he even read? He's like, I can't. I don't have, I have a penny to my name. And she goes, damn, you're broke, and tried to give him money. And then he had an epiphany, and he went home, and he went on Bing, because you get a credit, I guess, when you do a search on Bing. And he started asking questions about money. Why am I so broke? How do I make more money? What does it say? How hard do I have to work to make $100,000 a year? And how do I make $1 million? So, I don't know, self-taught millionaire from broke to woke. Oh, wait, he has a podcast
called Broke to Woke.
Yep.
Incredible. Another great podcast, by the way.
100% awesome.
Yes. And I think the biggest point here is that broke is a perspective. It's a mindset. It's a condition created within your own mind. And in life, there is going to be a point where everybody is faced with something that is going to shift that perspective, whatever that might be. Maybe it's listening to this podcast. Who knows? Maybe it's having this conversation, or maybe it's not being able to buy your last pack of smokes, or maybe it's not being able to give money to somebody and them turning around and offering you money in return. I mean, there's everything happens for a reason. And it's whether or not we act on those doors that are opening for us and whether we do something. And you know, there might have been many opportunities prior to that may have, you know, given Jerremy an opportunity to make some changes, but it was that moment that was significant enough to change his life forever. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me anyway, is the whole, it's a mindset, right?
Right.
And I remember even listening to an interview that he just recently did with Carlos Reyes, and you know, Carlos had mentioned, you know, you're not broke, or you haven't experienced poverty until you've experienced poverty in a third world country. And
yeah, I remember that quote.
You know, it's quite like I said, it's a perspective, it's a mind shift. It's all in how you think of the world, right? So
yeah, and we've been super fortunate with just being involved with real life trading and the different types of interviews we get to hear, because I've realized, you know, my upbringing was a piece of cake compared to some of these people that I hold as mentors. You know, what their lives, what they've been through. I'm like, I don't even know why for a minute you were complaining, Kristin. Just no. Okay, so I think we should wrap this one up to move on to the next, you know, couple chapters here. He quoted Tony Robbins in here, which I appreciate, because the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. And I just had super appreciation for as long as I've known him, he's always asked great questions. And so do you. And so I realize I really like hanging out with people that really ask really like deep questions and, you know, or just care.
Yeah.
You know, the quality and value of just the intention of you just care.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the difference, right? I think that's the main difference, is that actual sincerity in wanting to learn and understand. That is the premise. You need to have that if you want to ask good questions.
Thank you for joining us today. For more information about the show, as well as our list of current reads, check us out at www.theelevatedtrader.com.
Remember to subscribe and share if you found value in today's episode. See you next week.